shake your windows and rattle your walls, for the times they are a-changing. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly aging. Please get out of the new one if you can't lend your hand, for the times they are a-changing. The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast. The slow one now will later be fast, as the present now will later be past. The order is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later be last, for the times they are a-changing.
Good morning. My name is Robin Carter, and I serve as the President-elect of the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Universalist of Spartanburg this year. Thank you for joining us via live stream. So members, friends, YouTube subscribers, we welcome you into this space, albeit two-dimensionally this morning. As the pandemic continues, we understand that there is desire to find ways to meet in actual 3 dimensions. Our board met yesterday for a day-long retreat where a way forward was discussed at length. We are excited to share a fuller plan following our regular board meeting this Wednesday evening, but know that our highest goal is our ongoing care for one another and all that care encompasses. We are a congregation and we must work together. Meanwhile, if you desire access to the church building or grounds for any meeting, please contact the church office so that the board can work with you to help you find the best and safest way to proceed in coordination with our whole congregation. Allow me now to share a couple of announcements this morning. We are organizing donations of flowers each Sunday service this fall. I hope you've enjoyed celebrating this way of honoring life milestones and relationships as much as I have these past few weeks. This is a wonderful way for us to connect with this space and this congregation that we love. Today's flowers, beautiful as they are, were provided by Al and Pate Randall in celebration of their 15th wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary, you two. You can always be a part of celebrating our life together and beautifying the church on Sundays. See the Happenings weekly email for details if you are interested in participating. The Social Justice Quintuple Dip will take place this afternoon, Sunday the 18th, from 3 to 5 p.m. here at UUCS. What's a quintuple dip? I am so glad you asked. It's 5 ways you can help. Number 1, donate your native wildflowers for planting on church grounds. Number 2, donate winter wear. New or lightly used coats, jackets, scarves, hats, gloves, new socks for men, women, or children. Number 3, donate to Total Ministries. Most needed right now are hygiene items, toilet paper, paper towels, peanut butter, canned fruit and vegetables, pasta sauce, and macaroni and cheese. Number 4, bring your stash of old newspapers for Animal Allies. And number 5, buy those beautiful Grimke mural cards from the League of Women Voters. Bottom line, pandemic or no, we need each other. Thank you for being a part of our congregation today. We are a people of faith and hope, and you are welcome here.
Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for being with us this Sunday. However you understand yourself to be connected to this congregation, whether as a member or a friend, someone who was sent this link by a friend, however it is that you have come to be connected with us, thank you for being part of this gathering this morning. This congregation is on purpose. It is on its purpose, doing work within this community and out in the greater community. And your presence, the energy that you bring, your connection with all of the rest of us fuels that work. We do this together, we do it for purpose, and we help one another to do it. Thank you for being a part of this work this morning. This month, we are talking about power, about how to claim our own power, about the abuses and uses of power, and about how to share our power, to build one another up, and to build a world. I want to urge you to watch this service next week. In the concluding reflection for this month, a guest speaker will join us to deepen our understanding of our power, of how we show up in the world, and how we can make this world more livable for ourselves and for everyone around us. Dr. David Heatherly is a highly regarded therapist, thinker, teacher in this community and far beyond, a mentor for many people, including people who are very close to me. And Dr. Heatherly will tackle one of the most difficult subjects to address, the shadow. Thinking about how the shadow emerges in our lives and what its connection to us is, and how by turning to see it for what it is, we can work with it. We can find a way through the pain of our lives. I urge you to watch this service. It could not be more timely. I hardly think you need for me to explain why. Join us next week. Now, last week we talked about democracy. About democracy as a practice of shared voice, really of shared power, of sharing power with one another to make this world more livable for us all. And I urged us to see that the reflection was not only about one level of our lives, but about all of our lives. To practice shared power and shared voice, to listen and speak with one another on every register of our lives. And man, have you done that this week. I have been inundated with rich conversations in our committees, with our board, in one-on-ones with you, through emails. The door was open for us to speak more frankly and openly with each other, to be more vulnerable to each other. And we have taken the opportunity. It has been like a flood. No doubt, there's a challenge in this. It takes time and it takes care. It takes a lot of energy. But if we were doing a great deal before, and we have been, our ability to engage with each other on that level has fueled us forward even more. The board retreat that took place on Saturday was amazing. A team of rivals working together across their differences, finding that we agree on much more than we disagree, and that our disagreements are traction for the way ahead. They hold us accountable and show us paths that we didn't even know we could take. Our practice of listening and speaking with each other, of sharing voice, sharing power, it gives us a way forward. And so I want to ask you again, as we have in every service since August, to remember these points in the practice of democracy in this election season, with voting justice as one of our 4 key social justice action points. These 6 action steps that you can take, offered to us first by Karen Mitchell, president of the League of Women Voters in Spartanburg. in this election season for people for whom democracy is one of our fundamental values, stated in the 7 principles of this congregation and this movement. Pay attention. What is our government at the local and the state and the federal level doing to make it easier or harder for people to exercise their right to vote? Talk about voting with someone different every day until the election. As overwhelming as media may be, our human interaction with each other is more powerful. Speak with someone every day about voting, whatever their political affiliation, not even engaging with them on their political affiliation, just discoursing with them on our shared power to vote. Get out your calendar, mark the day when you will vote, and make time on that day for voting to be your priority no matter how long it takes. Polling stations are registering very different times required to vote. This is crucially important, and we know that people will try to obstruct our exercise of this power. On the day that you vote, make it your priority so that nothing will deter you. Follow the instructions carefully when you vote. Follow them to the letter. Give the person counting your vote every reason to make your vote count. Follow the directions. Vote early. Every person in South Carolina who is eligible to vote has the right this year to vote early. And finally, have patience. We know that because of the scale of engagement in this election, because of voter turnout and because of mail-in ballots, because of different voting laws in every one of our states, because of the way our Constitution was written, we know that it will take time for us to know the results of this election. And we know, because it happens every day, that some people will try to confuse us and lie to us and send us into panic and disempower us, draw our power away from us through fear and intimidation. Look for the truth and let patience be what you rely on. Hold fast to the truth, no matter what others do. We will find a way through all of this, and we will conclude with greater power than when we began. Thank you for all you are doing, for bringing your presence today, for serving in all the ways that you serve, for exercising your right to vote, and most of all, for speaking with each other, for practicing democracy on every level of our lives. The result in 1 week for this congregation has been astounding. We go on.
Our chalice lighting reading this morning comes from Brené Brown, researcher, professor, and storyteller behind The Power of Vulnerability, one of the top 5 most viewed TED Talks in the world. Her words today are from her blog titled Pressing On with Purpose, written in August of this year. Not now, not ever. From the recent comment sections on my social posts to incoming emails, I understand that many of you who follow me, who've read my books and who've found value in my work, are disappointed, frustrated, and even angered about my activism and about me sharing opinions with which you do not agree. The most common response is, stick to research and making people feel better, followed by threats of unfollowing me And there are even a handful of posts, mostly on Twitter, that are threats or fantasies of violence. I want everyone to know that I will never stop sharing my opinions and beliefs to make anyone feel better or more comfortable. Not now, not ever. I am here for my purpose.
Be that guide whom love sustains, rise above the daily strife, lift on high the good you find, help to heal the hurts of life. Be that helper nothing daunts, doubt a friend or taunt a foe, ever strive for liberty, show the path which life should go. Be that builder trusting God, bitter though the test may be, through all ages they are right, though they build in agony. Be that teacher faith directs, move beyond the old frontier, though the fright and fear that faith be tomorrow's pioneer.
One of the groups that I've plugged into this year as president-elect has been sort of a president's roundtable with the southern region of the UUA. The topic of our meeting last month was covenant. You often hear UUs and worship associates in particular point out that we do not have a creed, but we do have a covenant. At last month's meeting, we talked about the history and theology of this covenantal faith and the importance of keeping the congregational covenant alive, because it's the practice of promising to walk together that is the precious core of our creedless faith. I know our covenant is alive here. I see it being worked out and grappled with and held tightly to in all the ways that we strive to live, both together and in our community. Join me now in making these words alive again by stating our covenant at this time. We are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. In our community, we take time each week to share pieces of our lives with one another, even virtually. We do this because each person in this community has value. Each person's experience matters. We share our sorrows with one another, knowing that sorrows come into each person's life, knowing that together we offer comfort. We also share our joys with one another, knowing too that joy comes into all of our lives, and knowing that together our voices can create a chorus of celebration. I invite you to hold these joys and sorrows in your heart at this moment and release them into this beloved community, trusting that others are doing the same right now alongside you. Then later, Reach out to someone you've missed seeing and share a moment of connection, celebration, and support with each other. This is a time when we bring our gifts. Gifts may be time, talent, or treasure. We celebrate and honor it all. Please visit our website at uucs.org, and below this live stream, you will see a button that says Help. This page is updated regularly and contains numerous ways that you can share your time, from action to letter writing, your talents with service within the life of this congregation, or your financial donations, which can be given online. Click Donate along the top taskbar to learn more. Let's take care of each other. Let's take care of this place. Let's take care of this world.
We are prophetic, not partisan. From this pulpit, we will never endorse or promote a candidate for elected office, but we will defend democracy in every level of our lives. Democracy is one of the 7 principles of the UU movement. When democracy is threatened in any part of our lives, we will speak prophetically. Because democracy is about sharing our power so that every one of us, and especially those of us who are most marginalized, may live and thrive. This reading from renowned therapist Brené Brown shows us both in content and by its example how to confront bullies and enablers who seek to dominate and marginalize us. In it, Dr. Brown claims her power, speaks the truth, stands together with others, shows the enablers the human consequences of bullying, changes the narrative, and by offering a blessing, exercises compassion rather than becoming a bully herself. This example can serve us in every level of our lives. A reading from Pressing On with Purpose by Brené Brown, How to Stand Up to a Bully. While I have a political identity, my work does not. The concepts and constructs I study, including vulnerability, courage, trust, and shame, are not bendable and elastic. If you found a way to reconcile my work with your support for the administration, you have bankrupted the research for your own agenda. And if you're wondering if I believe that the left has the corner on the wholehearted market, the answer is no. The work is apolitical. I will say, however, that I've never seen anyone in my lifetime, Republican, Democrat, or independent, who has leveraged fear, shame, and dehumanization to divide our country like has. Of all the behaviors that stand in direct conflict with my work, one of the most egregious is bullying. Has continued to use his power to belittle and torment people, women, Black people, Indigenous people, people with disabilities, trans people, immigrants, Muslims, poor people, sick people. The list goes on. I will not stop speaking out while this is happening. We can't believe that the playground is safe just because the bully is picking on someone else. We all know that the playground isn't safe for any of us until it's safe for all of us. I absolutely do not understand how someone could read and understand my work and think that I would have any tolerance for the administration's blatant disregard for science and their full-throated support of white supremacy, dehumanization, and fear-mongering. Not only are the policies supported by this administration and the behaviors of individuals in this administration in direct conflict with the data I've collected on courage, vulnerability, integrity, and love, but the shame, division, and violence inflicted and incited by are in direct conflict with my belief that we are all God's children. Leveraging fear and hatred are unholy acts. Chadwick Boseman ended his commencement speech at Howard University by inspiring graduates to press on with purpose and offering God's blessings. I'm going to take that glorious advice and press on with purpose. And if we're still riding together, wonderful. I love our wholehearted community, and I'm grateful for what we've created. If not, that's okay too. Either way, blessings to you. Stay awkward, brave, and kind.
Join with me in silence. Martin Niemöller was a German pastor in the 1930s. He grew up in a conservative home, was a person of deep faith, was a World War I war hero commanding a U-boat, a submarine. He was a hardworking, dedicated, loyal, patriotic member of his society. And when the Nazis rose to power in the 1930s, he saw in their leader and in their movement hope and opportunity for his country that had been so devastated in the aftermath of World War I. Martin Niemöller was a religious leader who was an enabler of Adolf Hitler. As the Nazis gained power, and as World War II began, Niemöller realized the gravity of the mistake that he had made. Even in later life, I would find fault with some of his ideas, many of his ideas, and with his assessment of the human damage done prior to and during World War II. But despite our disagreement, nonetheless, on some level, Niemöller realized the catastrophe that had unfolded, abetted by his support for the Nazi movement and its leader. Niemöller finally stood up against the Nazis, confronting Hitler himself, challenging the program that the Nazis were prosecuting in Germany and around the world. And for that, Niemöller was incarcerated in a concentration camp, narrowly escaping execution before war's end. In the years that followed, he reflected on that time. He is best known for a short poem which encapsulates the regret that he has for what happened. A powerful statement of confession about what he wished he had done differently, as a warning, a prophetic warning to us all. And I want to emphasize, to us all in every level of our lives, from the most private and secret to the most public and open. This is what Niemöller said in confession of his enablement of the Nazi regime. First, they came for the socialists. But I was not a socialist, and I did not speak up. Then they came for the trade unionists. But because I was not a trade unionist, I did not speak up. Then they came for the Jews. And because I was not a Jew, I did not speak up. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak. It matters. It matters what we do. It matters what we decide, no matter how early or how late. It matters that we stand up to bullies. How do you stand up to a bully? I was speaking with a very close friend of mine, someone who was very close to me, a therapist. And I said to them, I think that I need to speak with my congregation about how to stand up to a bully. And this person who has known bullying in their life, who has known great pain from their childhood forward in their life at the hands of bullies, cracked a wry smile and said, I think what you want to talk about is not how to stand up to bullies, but how to remove them from their positions of power. It's good to stand up, but what we've got to figure out is how to dislodge them from their power. You know, people who have suffered great pain can offer us tremendous insight. It can be difficult to listen to them. This person who is so close to me, sometimes it is really hard for me to listen to them. The level of emotion, the depth of experience, it can feel overwhelming to me. It can feel like something that I don't know how to deal with, that I don't know how to fix. But if in that practice of democracy that we've already talked about today, I will just shut up and listen. Listen to what this other voice in its power has to say to me, what this other person in their power has to say to me. They provide me with insight that my own experience cannot possibly access. We need to talk about more than how to stand up to bullies. We need to talk about how to remove them from power. And it can be done. I know from my own experience it can be done. When I was an adult, graduated from college, old enough to know much better, I was sitting in a room one evening with a group of friends, all close to one another. And in the course of the evening, I started to tease one of the other people in the room, to just make light of something they had said. And then with my razor-sharp wit and absolute cleverness, I threw out another joke before they could respond. And then I saw another joke that I could make, and I did it again, just like that. And then again, just like that. And all of a sudden, I was knocking them out just like this. I was on a tear. It was amazing. It was so hilarious. And then the person next to me turned and said, "Stop it! Stop it! It's like there's blood in the water. What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just making jokes. What are you talking about?" And this person next to me said, "Look at the person that you've been teasing. Does it look like they're having fun? You're being a bully and you need to cut it out now. Stop it." They were absolutely right. What allowed me to do that? How is it that a nice guy like me, all of a sudden, was slashing another person for my own pleasure? Why would I allow myself to do that? Why did I think that that was funny? The potential to bully is in us all. A mistake today would be to project all of our anger onto a single person. We need to see this in ourselves before we move any further with the discussion. The capacity to cause harm is in us all. And the question that we must ask ourselves is, why? Why? Where does that come from in us? What is it in me that would act with such violence against someone that I thought was my friend? What is in me that wants that? If we can turn to see that, we will find a way through this. If you look online at the literature on bullying, there's a whole lot about kids on playgrounds, how kids can interact, what teachers and principals should do, how parents can advocate for their kids, how to break up fights on playgrounds. But about 10 years ago, a different set of articles began to emerge. And they went like this: why do we think this is just an issue for kids on playgrounds? Bullying does not just happen on playgrounds. And it definitely just doesn't happen for kids. Turn on your TV at prime time any night of the week, and you can indulge vicariously in a frenzy of bullying called reality television. Turn on any news program and watch commentators go at each other, and you can watch high-dollar bullying as much as you want. You don't even have to know how to get to WWF. It's right there on CNN. And you know the names of the other stations. The point in how much we know about this, and how pervasive it is, and how easily our experts could fool themselves and us to think for a long time that this is on playgrounds without seeing how it's everywhere. Everywhere. From Hollywood to the South Carolina State House. Everywhere. Is because we are immersed in it. We have created a culture of violence in which bullying is seen as power, a way to get what we want at the expense of others, a way to satisfy desire for blood in us at the expense of others. Is that the culture you want to live in? It's not the one that I want to live in, but it is the air that we breathe. 4 years ago, I gathered in a little room in a school in Spartanburg County. There was a Spanish language translator there, a teacher in the school who was bilingual. And we met with Latinx parents from the community all around the school in dialogue to listen to their concerns about this community. We were just coming out of the nomination process for the major political parties and headed into the general election. And these people, all women, all mothers, all Latinas, Hispanic, all with children in the school, all living in that community, part of our larger community, were terrified. They talked first about the political rhetoric, which ramped up every day, and how it targeted immigrants, people like them, people of their culture and of their language. And then they began to tell stories about things that were happening in supermarkets, grocery stores, in the workplace, from their supervisors, from their managers, intimidation, rudeness, cruelty. And then they began to tell stories about getting run off the shoulder of the road, about people jumping out of pickup trucks with baseball bats and hitting the sides of their cars, shouting, "Get out of my country, go back to where you came from." Shouting this at people who were born in this country and who are citizens like all the rest of us. Imagine how they feel when their children get in a car and drive away from them, and what races through their minds about what the day holds for their children, much less themselves. And now amplify that 4 years later. Pick up any news source, TV, radio, internet, print, and we will see stories of intimidation, of fear, of bullying. What is the culture that we have created? What is the world that we have made? And why have we done it? There are many theories about why people bully and where it comes from. The most incisive that I have found, the most compelling and clearest explanation that I have heard, is that it comes from vulnerability. That when we are feeling insecure in our own lives, we feel some gratification, some distraction, some pleasure in acting our own insecurity out on another person, in inflicting our hidden pain onto someone else. And left unchecked, it escalates, it grows, it can spin out of control. It can move far beyond us to become a practice of a whole family, a whole congregation, a whole community, a whole culture. For all of us, vulnerability can be a place of insecurity, a place of fear. We want to be superheroes. We want to be powerful. We don't want to be seen as fearful, as worried, as anxious. When I let loose on my friend in that room, I was a college graduate without a job, living in my parents' house, without a significant partner, wondering what the point of my life was. Little wonder that I was willing to unleash my insecurity on someone else. And if I had been wise enough to deal with my own worries, I would have been a friend to that person instead of a bully. The key to this is to shift, to turn from projecting our vulnerability to claiming it, and to see that our very vulnerability is a source of power, My friend who told me that we don't just need to stand up to bullies, but we need to remove them from their positions of power, whatever they are on whatever playground. That person has known pain. And they have claimed that pain, that vulnerability, as a source of power, insight. And they have become a healer beyond anything in my capacity. When we own our vulnerability, whatever it is that makes us insecure, our finances, our relationships, our sense of well-being, our confidence, our past, whatever it is that we feel insecure about in our lives, when we can claim that as a source of power, of insight and strength, rather than fear, we have made the shift and we become agents of transformation in the world. So I want to ask you, to the level that you are able, to stop with me for just a moment and breathe again. And allow yourself to touch your vulnerability. I want to ask you, as much as you are able, to turn in your discomfort to your insecurity, whatever it is, and just place a hand on it. Just acknowledge that it is there. Do this with me now. It is hard work, repeated and constant work. But if we will do this work, it will change us and our families, our congregation, our community, our nation, our world. When Niemöller finally realized his vulnerability, the terrible mistakes he had made, he was able to stand up to a bully. And we can too. How do we remove a bully from power? The first step is what we've just done. We're already on the way to claim our own power. When we claim our power, when we understand, even in the slightest, our own dignity and worth, we remove from the bully their fundamental source of power, which is to diminish us. When we know that we are of value and refuse for anyone else to rob us of that, we disempower the bully from the very beginning. Claim your power. Acknowledge your own vulnerability and claim it as a source of power for yourself. Second, speak the truth. Bullies pour out lies. The first lie being that we are not of equal value. Wrong. We are. And for every lie, there is a truth to be spoken. I know the lies are overwhelming. I know they pour down like hard rain. I know the news outlets that disseminate them to rake in the money. I know it. Your voice is more powerful than all of that. Speak the truth without fail. Speak it without wearying. Just the truth. Cut through the lie. Third, stand together. Bullies work by isolating us, trying to marginalize us and push us to the edges, to make us feel alone, to disempower our voice and the truth that we speak by creating a vacuum around us. But we are many. We are everything. We are the interconnected web of all being. We are the thriving and eternal network of life. We are not alone. And when we stand next to each other in solidarity, even in disagreement, when we stand beside each other, we break the bully's hold on us. We break the isolation. And the power of our truth spoken together is that much stronger. Fourth, show the enablers the human consequences of the bullying. This is what makes me the most angry. The people who find in the bully some source of strength for themselves, some opportunity for themselves, and who enable the bully for their own benefit. We must show the enablers what has been created by their support of the bully. This is exactly what Niemöller realized. He said, I realized that my desire to protect people like me, German Christians, blinded me to the damage done to everyone else around me, people of different political and religious and ethnic background. If I and other German Christians have been willing to stand up to the Nazis, 40 or 50,000 of us might have died. But how many millions of people would have survived? Show the enablers the human consequences of their opportunism and their cowardice. Fifth, change the narrative. The bully wants us to buy into a story that they are great and we are not. Change that story through comedy, through humor, through a terse word. Stop it. Through the story of the human consequence. Through art, through truth, through solidarity, in whatever way we pivot so that as the bully dominates us, we turn the story and they fall. If all we do is try to hold up a shield to defend ourselves, they will lay withering blows on us for as long as they can, feeling mighty for pounding down on us. But if we pivot and change the story, the bully will lose their footing and fall. And then we can do the sixth thing. Not become a bully ourselves. It is crucially important in our rage and indignation, in our fury, in our righteous anger, that we not retaliate with bullying in kind. Compassion is the final act of disempowering a bully. It is owning our own vulnerability so that we need not project back to the bully themselves. I'm not saying that we lie down and take it, not at all. I'm not saying that we don't act to remove people from power, whatever their position of power, that are abusing their power. We must do that. But vengeance is not for us. We are part of a greater justice. We can act with compassion, knowing that every single person bears a wound and is vulnerable. And if they can touch their vulnerability, they also can change. We have a lot of work to do. There are bullies in every level of our life. We must claim our power. We must speak truth. We must stand together. We must show the enablers the human consequences. We must pivot and change the story. And in the end, when all else is done, we must act with compassion. Why has our culture so fomented bullying in every level of our lives? Because there is an insecurity, a wound, a vulnerability that we as a culture will not turn to face. And so we must act with compassion, finally to turn to face whatever it is in us as a people that is so insecure and so fearful, so wounded, so vulnerable. If we can lead our people in finally facing the truth of our nation, we can break the bully's power and be free.
Things fall apart, everything tends to decay, and so it takes a lot to combine atoms in such a way that they resist the lure of that darkness that lurks around the edges of every day. So I'm inviting you to join me in this fate. Go down to the river and come up all 3 times. Hank Williams was right. No one gets out alive. All we can do is try to have a really good time. Resist the tide, stand in the water. That's baptism, that's making light. Electricity is proof that there can be a little bit of light in all this darkness. So please don't go so gently into that good night. Rage, rage, rage against the dying of the light. You know you got a voice to talk with, you can call your own. So clear your throat and start singing this song. Resist the tide, stand in the water. That's baptism, that's making light. Electricity is proof that there can be light. It takes a lot of work
Wow. Our extinguishing of the chalice reading again comes from Brene Brown's blog, Pressing On with Purpose. Though these are her words, let us claim them as our own. I am here for my purpose. I'm not here to make people comfortable or to be liked. My purpose is to know and experience love. That means excavating the unsaid in the world and in me. Knowing and experiencing love means calling shame, fear, dehumanization, and injustice by their birth name, lovelessness. It means finding love in beauty, art, music, and nature. It means not turning away from pain or working out pain on other people. Knowing and experiencing love requires making connections between experiences and emotions that often feel like a million miles apart. And for me, love always requires living into courage and faith. I am here for love, and I am not changing course.
Power. The lust for it. The abuse of it. The bullying to seize it and to hold it, to strip it away from the rest of us. That is not our way. Not now and not ever. Touch your vulnerability. Whatever it is that you fear, touch your vulnerability and claim it as the power you offer the world. And we can change this damn beautiful, beautiful world for us all.